Hello,
Okay.
everybody. This is The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston. I'm Dr. Marianne Pinkston. Going to bring you some more great information today and talk a little bit about pharmaceuticals and how the process works. I think it's very important for you guys to understand the process of everything because it's very complicated, and sometimes we don't understand why things are the way that they are. But I always want you to have the greatest information. And of course, I have Dr. Warren Lesser here, who is with Magna Pharmaceuticals, who has been very supportive of me this year and maybe a little bit longer, an hour. I think it's been like a year and a half now, Doc. How are you doing? Welcome
Right.
in.
I'm doing so well. Thank you. I'm doing a lot better than the poor folks in Florida right
I
now.
know. I know. Watched that come in last
Or-
night. Oh, they're getting hit twice. This is awful.
I,
So
I
yeah.
know it. I know.
Well, we will extend many prayers out to them and hope that everybody can get through their tough times and no more this year, right?
Right.
Well,
Just
I know
hope.
you have a presentation for us this morning, so let's roll. Tell me what we're going to talk about.
So what we're going to do today, in the past sessions, we've talked basically about clinical research and about the documented research that supports the efficacy of some of our products of Magna and especially dietary supplements.
Right.
Dietary supplements are a little bit like the Wild West out there. So you've got to make sure the people that are listening have to make sure that when they choose a dietary supplement, they choose one that is pharma grade. But today we're going to do something a little bit different that I hope is fun because I hope your listeners are comprised of many business owners or people who work in business, and of course, many consumers of pizza, because we're going to talk about the dynamism of the 8Ps marketing mix
Okay.
as the 8Ps marketing mix pertains to De Novo Plus B12, which is a Magna product,
Yes.
the physician of choice, where your listeners go to get their doctoring done, and of course, their pizza of choice. And with regards to our presentation outline, we're going to actually apply the APs to each one of those three settings as examples. But I'll tell you some sobering statistics from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and this is 2023 data, okay? These data is that the failure rate for a new business after 1 year is 20%, after 2 years, 30%, after 5 years, 50% of new businesses fail. And what's really astounding is that after 10 years, 70% of new businesses are gone. Now, these are people that invest their life savings into a dream, and it's just tragic. And one of the reasons so many businesses fail is that the business owner doesn't really have a good business plan, and specifically, they don't have a good marketing plan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, marketing plan consists of something called the marketing mix. In the old days, we called it the 4Ps: a product, price, place, promotion, and how those 4Ps had to be integrated to augment the success of a business. And then it evolved to the 8Ps to include promotion, packaging, people, processes, and personalization. And what I'm going to add today is a ninth P called perplexity. Now, perplexity can be a little negative, but the flip side of perplexity is plus 10% perception, which is very positive. Now, let me explain that. Back several years ago, the dean of the Kelley School of Business, which is Indiana University, it's one of the top 5 business schools in the country, wrote a book called The Plus 10% Principle. And the plus 10% principle regards business owners who will strive to be 10% better than their competition, not 20, 50, 100% better, but just 10%. Because if you're 10% better than your competition, you can achieve in the minds of your customers something called non-substitutability.
Wow.
In the old days, we used to call it differential features and benefits. What makes you as a physician better than other physicians? As a pizza place owner, what makes my pizza better than someone else's?
Mm-hmm.
But really, so the differential features and benefits then evolved to something called competitive advantages. We've heard those. And then I really like the most contemporary term, which is non-substitutability. Now, non-substitutability is a perception in the mind of the customer or the patient where there's actually absolutely no substitute for their choice of whatever they're buying at the moment in time. Years ago, Tom Peters called MOT a moment of truth. If I go to the next slide, you can see how with the APs, now the ninth P, how they integrate with each other, that every time a customer or a patient has an interface with a doctor or say with a pizza joint, that's a moment of truth. You can have, for example, the greatest product since sliced bread on the market, and your price is out of whack, or you're in the wrong place, or your package is no good, or you're so difficult to deal with from a processes standpoint that you're not optimized. And a lot of businesses fail because they don't understand, the business owners, the business managers don't understand that you've got to integrate, that these 8 Ps and now the ninth P have to be integrated to achieve non-substitutability in the minds of the customers and patients. Let's go to the first P, for example, and kind of lay this out a little bit better. So product P, again, trying to achieve non-substitutability for de novo plus B12, our first example today. This is a pharma-grade healthy product that has active absorbable forms of vitamin B9, which is L-methylfolate. Now, L-methylfolate is the active form of folate or folic acid. What people don't know is that depending upon ethnic background, mostly Hispanic or Asian, between 32 and 65% of the population of those ethnic backgrounds don't have an essential enzyme called MTHFR, methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. And because of that, they cannot absorb folic acid. Folic acid is essential to good health. So L-methylfolate is the essential form, and that's what's in de novo plus B12. And then we use the essential form of vitamin B12, which is methylcobalamin. Right. If you take a daily dietary supplement and you look on the label, you'd say it's a multivitamin pill. Typically, you'll see cyanocobalamin. Cyanocobalamin is very poorly absorbed orally. It's methylcobalamin is what you want, right. And both of these substances, L-methylfolate and methylcobalamin, are absorbed very well, and they cross the blood-brain barrier. So what does that mean? Well, they cross the blood-brain barrier, so they can help improve feelings of sadness, depression. They can improve cognitive function. They can improve memory. They help regenerate nerves. They help give energy. So that's why you want to use pharma grade, because a lot of times on dietary supplements, the label doesn't necessarily match what is inside the bottle. Pharma grade means you're inspected by the FDA, your water's purified, your raw materials meet very strict standards that go into your product. If you're a physician, what makes as a product, what is a product? It's a service, so it's really not tangible. But actually, I'll tell you, just as an example of this, well, I guess the first question is your physician functional and preventative in nature, or is the doctor that you go to just someone who wants to write you a quick script and get you out the door, yes. A quick prescription? Yes. So back, I'll never forget it, November 17th, 2018, my family, we owned 2 conveyor car washes. And I was helping my son it was a Saturday afternoon. I was helping my son load a dryer. We were walking through the drying chamber. Cars were coming through. My foot went down on the conveyor. The rollers that moved the car picked up my foot and dragged me. I was about 4 feet from where the chain goes into the sprocket. It would have severed my leg. I wouldn't have been here today. So I went taken by the ambulance to the hospital. I'll never forget this. And the orthopedic surgeon looked at me and said, "Your foot is so crushed, I can't do any surgery on it. We'll cast it, hopefully, hope for the best." But what he did was he touched my foot. It was a bloody, tangled mess, and the doctor put his hand on my foot. I'll never forget that. And it's those little touches, those little moments of truth between a physician and a patient that convey love and that convey such a difference, where that patient is not going to get that level of touch, that level of love with anybody else. How about the example of product with a pizza joint? Well, there's some claims like better ingredients, better pizza. We use fresh tomatoes. We don't use tomato paste. We use dough that's fermented for a few days. How about varieties of crust? How about how much toppings are on the pizza? You want a gluten-free crust? You want a New York style pizza? All these things, all these different aspects go into product P that help purveyors of whatever you're selling, whether you be a service or a product, figure out how they're going to be different and how they're going to meet the needs of their patient and patient and customers in a very special way. The second P is price P. What's interesting about price P is that there are volumes written on this subject, and what's often talked about is the final integer in the price on a retail basis. For example, $9.95 used to be like the Vogue numbers. Those were the ones that really resonated with customers. Yeah. Then it became 4, 6s, and 8s, like 64, 68, 86. Those are the numbers that really resonated. I was in Walmart a couple weeks ago, and I was walking through the store, and I saw the last integer as being 2 or 7. So it's all over the board. It's really, well, what is the last integer? What makes what's most important? Really, the most important thing here is that consumers and patients, they want a good deal. They want good value for money.
Yes.
And the value that a customer has is perception. Perception equals reality.
And they want insurance coverage too, most of the time. Is this on my insurance, right?
Exactly. For de novo, I mean, it costs about $1 a day. We think it's really a great price for good health and for treating so many symptoms. And for a physician, a lot of times you can have the best doctor, but the price may not seem to be such a good deal if the wait time is excessive,
sure,
or if the staff is discourteous. So it's always a value proposition. And then with the pizza, it's always like, well, are you going to buy a cheap pizza for a large group, or are you going to buy the best pizza for your family, a small group of people? And you always value price. You evaluate price with quantity of toppings, for example. So price P is always a value proposition. And place P is the third P. We have a saying, right message, right frequency, right customer, but it's also right place. And for de novo plus B12, our place is online. The patient can buy from us directly online. It's not expensive. For the doctor, it's not only, if for a doctor's office, place P doesn't always apply to where the office is located, but how long it takes you to get an appointment, for example. Can you get in? Do you have access?
Right.
Also, place P for a physician's office might be the office appearance, the comfort of the chairs, et cetera. And then favorite pizza joint, let's think about places for a second. There's 74,000 pizza places in the United States. There are 35,000 chain stores and 39,000 independent pizza places that we have to choose from.
Wow.
And a lot of times we'll choose a place based upon the time of day. Like, for example, we mentioned before we started about traffic. Mm-hmm. But the United States has $46 billion of the $145 billion in worldwide pizza sales. We have about a third of all the sales. And in 2022, I just give this to you for interest, Domino's was number one in the United States with 4.53 billion and 17 billion worldwide, and Pizza Hut was second with 13 billion. That's a lot of pizza. Pizza is a very favorite staple. Wow. And when you think about 74,000 different choices across our country, it's just like no two pizzas are the same. It's incredible.
Right. And completely applies to our supplements and vitamins too. This is, of choices and, what do you do? How do you dig all that out, the quality and all?
Right. Well, you've got to follow just common sense guidelines about pharma grade is big. And with physician, you've got to figure out, you've got to follow the common sense of the doctor's competence and how you're treated by the office staff, the whole package, how the 8 Ps are integrated. Absolutely. Promotion. This is a huge area. This is the fourth P. So a lot of times with pizza, for example, let's talk about that. I mean, it's a trial. It's an empirical. It tastes. How does it taste? I'm going to buy again. That's the best promotion is really empirical. Or maybe introductory coupons, or is it Jessica Simpson for Pizza Hut or Domino's, sauce on the bottom, or moreflation campaigns? And if you're using social media, how do you measure return on investment, ROI, for social media? It's hard. It's difficult to do. Now, for a service business like a physician's office, for example, what we have at Magna, when we try to put something in so that it's tangible, we use a promotion acronym called HANDS, where we want to extend the physician's healing hands after the patient leaves the physician's office. So HANDS, HANDS stands for de novo plus B12 will lower homocysteine. Homocysteine is linked to cardiovascular disease and stroke. We don't want excessive homocysteine in our bloodstreams. Antioxidants, we increase glutathione. We increase the antioxidants that clean up the garbage that we willingly take into our bodies or that we breathe in or taken from our environments. Yes. Nitric oxide causes vasodilation, so our hearts don't work so hard to push the blood through our blood vessels, and we have better circulation. We increase dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. So that means that you get those neurotransmitters help mental function, help cognitive function, help improve depression. And then, of course, all that leads to an improvement in strength and stamina. So that's a promotion example that we use where we have a simple acronym called HANDS. The next P is packaging. This is kind of interesting because, Dr. Pinkston, in your professional work, packaging, it's not tangible. People like to see what they're getting, right?
Yeah.
So it's more challenging for a service type of organization than it is for a product. For example, and there's different ways a package can be perceived by a customer. Let's take, for example, a pizza box. Okay, so if I go to an independent pizza place and the guy is not doing that well, he doesn't have a lot of customers, and he gives me a plain pizza box, I feel like, well, that's acceptable. He's not doing that well. I hope he makes it. He's got a pretty good pizza. If I go to a place that's doing very well, and they still have good prices, they have a great product, great prices, they're very busy. The cheap box to me means, well, that's good because he keeps the price lower for me, or she keeps the price lower for me. Or if I go to an expensive pizza place and he gives me a plain white box with no print on the top of it, I think, well, the guy's a cheapskate because he's making all kinds of money on his high-priced pizza, and he can't even afford to give me a box with some kind of graphic. So packaging is a science in and of itself. For de novo plus B12, we use a bright yellow because it's sunny. We want, it means sunny mood. It means uplifting lifestyle. And then we use silver on the back and the sides of the box so that it smacks of quality. For a physician's office, now here's an example of an actual schematic that we put together for Middletown Chamber. I'm on the board for a local chamber of commerce here. And what we did was we came up with all the different features of our chamber versus other chambers of commerce. Well, so this is a collage that we put on bags. I think we're going to put it on T-shirts. And it gives people a visual representation as to why they go to the Middletown Chamber. The same thing could be true for your physician. Your physician could come up with, well, what are the things that make me different from other doctors? Because no two doctors are the same. And they could come up with, a doctor could come up with a physical, tangible schematic of what makes Dr. Pinkston different. Of course, I know you have a preventative orientation towards your patients. That is huge, I believe, because you're more interested in keeping people healthy as opposed to trying to slap a Band-Aid on a problem afterwards.
Go backwards on sure. And you know what? We have probably about 45 seconds here. I want to make sure that I get in that people can find you at magnaweb.com and more information, especially on the de novo, which is something I promote at the clinic highly. And then our previous shows explaining more about MTHFR and the de novo at drpbetterlife.com so that people can go back and watch the old shows. And I'm going to ask you to hold that thought for just a second, Dr. Lessner, and we'll be back on the other side and talk a little bit more about how all this works. Hang on just a second.
Depression, anxiety, low energy, weakness, these are just some symptoms of low B12 levels. And the absorbable B12 folate supplement that's helping people declare victory over depression symptoms is De Novo Plus B12 by Magna Pharmaceuticals. Patients with symptoms of depression often exhibit low levels of folate and vitamin B12. The human body needs sufficient folate intake to produce the essential neurotransmitters serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. These neurotransmitters alleviate feelings of sadness, anxiety, and gloom. What makes De Novo Plus B12 so successful? De Novo Plus B12 contains readily absorbable folate and B12. That means it's more successful at correcting the root cause of your deficiency, not just the symptoms. Whether you are suffering with low energy, depression, fatigue, or anxiety, you owe it to yourself to learn more at magnaweb.com. That's magnaweb.com. Please let us know at checkout that you heard about De Novo Plus B12 on The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston.
Dr. Marianne Pinkston here with Dr. Lessner. We've been talking a very interesting discussion on, how promoting products and the things that you see out there are, available for purchase on your health, and choosing your physicians and all works. And so I had to interrupt you, and I'm so sorry. Please pick up right where you left off. Let's continue.
Oh, that's no problem. So we've been talking about the 8 Ps marketing mix, which is essential. These are essential components that a purveyor, a business purveyor or service provider has to integrate for optimal performance and really the best chance for success, especially when we consider the Bureau of Labor Statistics and how many new businesses fail after 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, or even 10 years, 70%.
People don't realize that, medicine is a business. We, as a physician, you still have to run a business. So it's interesting to know this from behind.
Right. For sure. And overhead creep and management of expenses. There are so many different facets to business and surviving.
Right.
But what we're really focusing on today was basically getting the marketing mix correct, where the different components of that marketing mix are complementary to each other and don't work against each other. And we've talked about product, price, place, promotion, and packaging. And now we're going to jump into people. And here's the thing that's really interesting. Now, you talk about a physician's office, Dr. Pinkston. You got to be the best physician in the world, have the greatest technology, but front office staff can absolutely kill you.
Yep.
I mean, it's just.
I've learned that in the past. Absolutely.
I have never called up your office, but for example, you could, in theory, have somebody answer the phone. Good afternoon, Dr. Pinkston's office, or you could have someone say, "Thank you for calling Dr. Pinkston. We're so glad you called us," or "How can I help you today?"
Right.
Whatever. It's a bright, sunny. It's an appreciation. It's a moment of truth, which is what we talked about before. Yeah. It's that little element that creates non-substitutability in the mind of the patient, yes, or the customer.
Yes.
For the pizza place, we're talking about examples of pizza places. I know that if you're a good chef, you're going to have spaghetti sauce on your bib. You're back there flinging pizzas around. But if you're out there and I'm walking in to buy my pizza and it looks like you haven't had a bath in like 3 weeks, I'm thinking I'm going to eat the food that this person's, the dough he's throwing around or whatever.
I always go by the bathroom at the institution. If they don't keep their bathroom clean, then you can imagine what their kitchen is like.
Exactly. Right? You're exactly right. But it's another moment of truth, and your people I can really affect it. Everybody works so hard, but if you don't have the right people in the right places, or they're not well trained, or they don't have the right appearance, people P is a big deal.
Yeah.
Processes P is the seventh P we want to mention about. And here's a tip for anyone that is in business. When's the last time you had somebody from outside your organization look at the way you do things, look at the way your processes are? Because a lot of times we get involved with processes so much that we don't think about what we're doing. Well, can it be more efficient? We had an employee leave recently. We were able to cut out 3 steps in order processing, saved about 5 minutes per order. It's amazing.
Wow.
So, and what can we do to make those processes more customer friendly? Like we said before, you can have the greatest product in the world and best promotion, but if you're too difficult to do business with, people are going to find somewhere else.
Absolutely.
I like, for a doctor, if you care about your physician, there's something called feedback loops. Feedback loops are so important. If you care about your doctor, then give feedback about what you like and what you don't like about the practice. The doctor is often so busy and so intent on providing patient care that they don't understand what's going on in the front end. What's going on in the front end. What they're told by their staff is often not the truth, or not really representative of being objective. And then for pizza, for processes, can you get somebody on the phone, or do you talk to somebody outside the country? And how long does it take you to pay for your pizza? I mean, hotels are notorious. I can go to a hotel and be checked in 5 minutes or 25 minutes. And it's like, really? How come it takes so long to check in? You've got a reservation. You got my reservation.
My pet peeve is representative.
Right. So the last 2 P's I want to just touch on, guys. I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, about 3 minutes, 3.5.
Okay, personalization P. So you've got all the other P's together, the product, price, the packaging, but the personalization is the icing on the cake. It's when you walk into an establishment, or when you walk into a doctor's office and the person at the front desk knows you're coming in, you've got an appointment, and you hit the door and you walk in the waiting room and they call you by name.
Right.
Or maybe if you take your car to some place, you go back there regularly for service, they know you by name.
Right.
And so personalization, and you can also, as a business owner or manager, you can tailor what is important to your individual customers, and you can stress those aspects of what you provide. So that's a feedback loop in and of itself, that you're reinforcing why the customer keeps coming to you. Now, the perplexity of all this, the 9th P, is that you've got to figure out how to balance those 8 Ps, really. And the perplexity can be negative, but the flip side is that when you get all the 8 Ps balanced: product, price, place, promotion, packaging, people, processes, and personalization. When you get it all together, then you can achieve what is a perception of plus 10% or non-substitutability.
Right.
Where I go is at least 10% better than anywhere else I could possibly go, and therefore they're non-substitutable. And if we had time, Dr. Pinkston, we could talk about the 9 Ps as they apply to us and our health.
Right.
But I think I don't know, how much time do we have left?
About 2 minutes left, so if you can.
We do? Okay. So I take this and I think, well, 9 Ps, you apply it to business. As a business owner, you think about the 9 Ps. As a consumer, as a buyer, I can think about the 9 Ps and why I choose the pizza that I buy, for example, or why I choose the doctor where I go, or why I choose a dietary supplement. But when you think about product and people as our body and mind, is how healthy we are. And the price P is what we invest in our health, not only in money, but also in time that we put into our health processes that have to do with how productive am I daily and what choices do I have to make to be more productive. Place means what is my mobility? How far can I reach others? Promotion and personalization, how much can I help others? And package means my personal appearance. So the 9Ps actually applies each and every patient, each and every listener to this presentation, not only from a business standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint. And how do you augment or make those 9Ps work well together? It's regular exercise. It's not only aerobic, but it's resistance training. Absolutely. It's eating 5 servings of fruit and vegetables, using olive oil, eating more veggies and less junk, but eat good pizza, of course. Get regular checkups. Go to a functional medicine doctor. Yes. Not a doctor that cranks out scripts. Eat rich folate foods. Take a good dietary supplement. Don't take so many supplements where they counteract each other, but take a pharma-grade supplement, especially one that has methylcobalamin and L-methylfolate. Yes. And then if you do the above, you can have lower homocysteine, lower inflammation, systemic inflammation, better positive outlook, better neurological function, better brain function. Absolutely. And hopefully you'll have a longer life. So
well said, Dr. Lesser. Thank you. And so I'm going to remind everybody, go and look up more information on Dr. Lesser. It's on my website at magnaweb.com. And then you can go to DRP Better Life and find our previous shows with all the great information with Dr. Lesser and more. And we hit the 0 button, but I just want to thank you so much for appearing. It's always an honor to have you on.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you, Dr. Pinkston. Appreciate you.
Everybody have a great week.